Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, son.
One of my favorite quotes, the theme of my drinking when I was younger. Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life. I don't know how I got through an engineering degree. I think I definitely passed engineering. I didn't learn it. I still remember that Saturday morning at a lab when Nancy told me, God, you just reek like a brewery on a Saturday morning lab. No amount of Diet Pepsi or beef jerky or breakfast hot dogs could fix it. Anyways, welcome everyone. Thursday evening, getting back to zero. I brought in for today my favorite Aussie or awesome Aussie, one of my favorites. I got a few, a lot of great people over there, but Lisa Ryan is joining us. She suggested a guest from New York. So we're going to hear some two funny accents tonight, which will be good. But we were talking before the show just about COVID during the time and the amount of how much drinking has gone up. And the two businesses that I think thrived during this COVID were liquor sales and recovery meetings. I mean, I guess I come from an AA background, and I'm sure the line to get into the Zoom meetings was probably busting out the door. But I heard a stat just the other day that liver transplant requests are up, or need, whatever you want to call it, are up 50% this year because of the elevated drinking. And I guess there's our guest Jim was saying that it's a large portion is women. The increase of I guess excesses, if you just want to say that, in the drinking world was during the COVID was women. So a lot of tough times we're getting through. But anyways, I'm glad everyone's here on this Thursday evening. I want to bring in the awesome Aussie herself, Lisa Ryan. How you doing, Lisa?
Hey, Jeff. Flying the flag for all your Australian friends. My turn today.
Lisa sent me a quick little video snippet of an amateur golfer from Australia trying to tee off, and there was I don't even know what you call them, a herd of kangaroos.
Yeah, I don't know what you call it. I should know that.
Oh,
what a bloody Australian. I don't know what I heard of.
A lot. How about a lot of kangaroos?
A lot of kangaroos. Yeah.
So adorable. Then you told me that they'd rather turn me into kangaroo food than say hello.
Oh, look, it just depends on if they're hungry. They're still a wild animal, aren't they? So these are not the ones.
Eaters, are they? They don't.
Oh, I think they're carnivores. Yeah, they're not the ones you see in the zoos that are much more placid. You do have to be a little bit more aware of the ones that just appear out from the bush, because if they're hungry and you're in the way, but then it's like seeing a snake or something. You just get out of their way and they'll get out of yours. So, but I thought that video was classic. Yeah, that was about an hour away from me, so it's not that far.
I'm showing my age, but my kangaroos are Mr. Kangaroo, as from a kid, Captain Kangaroo.
Captain Kangaroo.
Yeah, with Mr. Blue Jeans, and then the other was everyone's favorite kangaroo from the Sylvester and Tweety, the massive mouse that Sylvester always fought in the old Bugs Bunny shorts. Well, anyways,
I just watch it on replay.
Yeah, I was right there with Mel Blanc when he was doing it. So introduce our guest.
Oh, so excited. Yeah. Hey.
That's your cue to introduce our guest.
Introduce our guest. I love our guest today. Jim Shovlin, I've known for about just over a year now. And we met when we were both doing Jolene Park's coach training with grey area drinking as the focus. And Jim's a retired pharmacist, lives outside of New York City, and just an all-around great guy. He was already a This Naked Mind certified coach when I met him. And I've gone on to get that certification too. So we have lots to talk about. We speak about, 3 or 4 times a week. and it's never boring. He's always good for a talk. So,
Jim, was she trying to get being that you were a coach before her, was she trying to get the answers to the test from you?
Nah. But first, before I even start, I don't have an accent. Just saying. All right. So, no, she didn't do that.
Hey, Cincinnati, we have that Cincinnati nasally one where the backpack. It's such a lovely, attractive accent I have. Anyways, hey, I'm glad to have you both here. Jim, I just want to jump right in. What is your sobriety? How long you been doing this? How long you been dry, shall we say? Or sober, shall we say?
Okay, anyway, I stopped drinking in June of 2018.
Okay.
I tell everyone it's somewhere around the 20th, but I couldn't tell you exactly what day because I didn't think it would stick. I had many 1 month and 2 month stops, and then fading effect bias would kick in, and I think I could have 1 or 2, and it would just take right off.
What was I know you're a family man. You got some beautiful kids.
That's pictures, my 5 grandchildren. And that actually is my motivating, that is my biggest why, is after I was sober for a while, like a year or a year and a half, I got thinking, these people, these kids are all growing up the same way we did, and they're learning about alcohol the way we did. Okay, man's been drinking for 10 or 11,000 years recorded. It wasn't until 1988 that they declared it a class 1 carcinogen in the same class as benzene and asbestos. So we have this knowledge. So why are we letting them learn the same way that we did? Why are we letting the alcohol companies and the advertisers run away with this stuff?
Because we want them to be able to run marathons like in the commercials and socialize and have the attractive guys and girls hanging around them and get the big corporate job and to be the life of the party because they're drinking, like everything that's shown to us.
Yeah.
That's the glamour.
Oh yeah.
But my story, they wouldn't use my story to try and sell beer on a commercial. I guarantee you, people would have gone the complete opposite way if they saw the commercial I would be in for it.
Right. Well, when you look at the advertising, everybody's having the greatest time at a party, and you need it at sporting events and every party and wedding and everything. But they never show you the park bench guy or the bag lady. They never show you that part in the commercial, but they should.
Yeah, Catherine just put up a good point. And Catherine, what she was saying about as an age, the glamour. As a kid, I wanted to drink Budweiser because of the Clydesdales. That was the beer way before I ever even knew what beer was, but I wanted to drink that because the marketing of the Clydesdales. I thought that was just a cool. So what was life like before you, not to get too graphic with the stories, but how low did you go?
Well, pretty low. I got to where I was drinking every day, the equivalent of 1 or 2 bottles of wine or the equivalent of beer or hard stuff. I'd wake up in the middle of the night when I was drinking every day. If I woke up at 2 or 3 in the morning and didn't have to work the next day, I'd have a couple of drinks in the middle of the night to make me pass back out. Mm-hmm. Sleep was terrible. I drank for like 40 plus years before I lost control of it. See, alcohol is addictive, and you never know when you're going to lose control of it. I ran my own farm. I'm a licensed pharmacist for 45 years and ran my own store for 32. So I didn't have time to drink during the week. But when I hired a full-time and part-time pharmacist, well, then I had plenty of time. I didn't have any real professional responsibilities, and that's kind of when things got bad. Now, how low did I go? Well, I just felt terrible, and I knew that, I started to search Quitlick, and I started because I wanted to go back to being a normal drinker, just drinking on the weekends. Well, when I got this education and found out that everything that alcohol does, once I had that knowledge, it changed my emotion and my action, and I quit. But it was cumulative. The first course first book I read was Alcohol Lied to Me. Then I got into William Porter's Alcohol Explained, and ended up with This Naked Mind. And after those three, was sort of like around April of 18, and I quit in June. Now, I did have one slip. About the end of January, beginning of February of 19, my cousin called me up from Florida and told me his cancer was back and it was terminal and he only had 4 months to live. So I flew down to visit him. I walked in and he handed me an open beer. Well, I had already been sober for 7 months, so I was going to be fine, but I wasn't. And after drinking for that week, I just like this, I can't do this. And so,
you know what's interesting though? You said that the knowledge of, I didn't care. You could. I don't know if I cared about how bad the ethanol was that I was putting in my system. That wasn't enough. That didn't outweigh the loss of pain that I was getting from drinking. That wasn't enough for me. And the other is feeling bad. The no pain, no gain was my philosophy. So the pain I felt in the morning wasn't bad enough pain that was what the price you paid of getting the relief that I got from drinking all day. Right. As crazy as that is. But that's what scares me, is just the knowledge. I didn't care if it was. Yeah. If it was,
and I get that. That's why it took me 2 years of quit lit and reading and trying and everything, and that's why, after a month, and the fading effect bias, in other words, forgetting all of the bad stuff the alcohol did and only remembering the good times, got me to keep going back to it. But eventually, eventually after 2 years at trying to quit, it wore me down to the point where I finally did it. Now,
why were your attempts failing? Why didn't it work the first time you said, you know what, this isn't, I need to stop?
Well, the first couple of times I did that, I'd get in about a week into it, and the withdrawal, I knew that, I'd get the shakes, I'd get all clammy and sweaty, and a drink would make that go away. And so, I was fine for a little while, but not long term. And the longer, so the breaks, a week or 2 weeks, kept getting a little bit longer. And then after doing an online program, that's when it kind of clicked how bad it was and why I couldn't sleep and why I was always nervous and why when I ride my bike and do all of this exercise, I couldn't lose any weight. If I didn't work out like a fiend, I would gain it like crazy. And so it was just a kind of a cumulative. I just got tired of it,
Did you have any family, anyone telling you your drinking's really getting us down?
No, not really. Well, my daughter would notice, and that's what I mean. She'd notice, but then when she got to be 16 and we'd go camping and one of her friends would be there, she'd want to try it. And so they would tell me that I drank. And again, I didn't really start drinking badly until my 2 older kids were probably 16, 17 years old. Well, actually a little younger than that. But before that, I just drank on a weekend. Now my kids are 39 and 37. So it was a while ago that, I was doing all of this stuff. And it was more just how I felt. My kids really didn't say much. None of the 3 of them really drink now. My daughter started drinking when she was 15 or 16 and quit when she was 21. Hasn't had anything in about 18 years. My 2 boys will have them once in a while, but there's no beer or liquor in either house. So, they didn't really have that much to do with it. I just got sick of doing it every day and waking up every day with a headache and hangover and feeling terrible. Just got sick of it. So, It wasn't anybody really telling me. It was just how I felt.
I think my fear of living life without alcohol was so much greater than that. Well, I never really had hangovers, which is amazing. How that worked, but the fear of going through life without it scared the crap out of me. And that whatever hangover or negatives I felt weren't even close to outweighing what I was going to lose by giving up alcohol. And that's what it's I know this is wrong, but I almost think, if I could have tapered mine back to what Jim's drinking.
That's what I was trying to do.
I'd still be drinking to this day, possibly. You know what I mean? And that's what scares me about it.
There was nothing good about drinking the equivalent of 1 to 2 bottles of wine every day. That's 1 or 2 bottles of wine or 6 half liters of strong lager or half a bottle of bourbon. You know, it wasn't a little bit, but it was that amount every day. And so it depends on what you want to call a lot. 2 bottles of wine every day is a lot.
No, it is. But I think, because I know you and Lisa both have expertise in the gray area drinking. And I think I could see myself going a little bit of a hangover. I'm one of those guys. I think I had to come face to face with a massive rock bottom. The threat. Now I got out a day before it hit. I somehow pulled the ripcord at the last second, but I'm one of those that had to come face to face with losing everything before I finally said, okay, I give up.
Yeah.
And so many people, I guess what I'm asking is, I would love to see people that are gray area drinkers to have that foresight to be able to look into the crystal ball and say, am I going that direction?
Oh, I was. That's why I started trying to go back to being a normal drinker, a normal, like college days, just drink on the weekend or when I was running my pharmacy, just drink on the weekend because I didn't have time during the week. It's when I had all of the time in the world that I had the trouble.
Why didn't that work? Why couldn't you just drink on the weekends?
Well, why couldn't I go back? Do you want to?
Yeah, I mean, I know why I couldn't, but I just want to.
Well, I couldn't go back because
moderation.
It's one of those things where once you get to a certain point, with drinking every day, if you go 2 days or 3 days, you're withdrawing. You're going through all of the acute withdrawal every single time you stop. You're actually going through it every time you drink, but when you drink every day and then try to scale back, 2 days into it, you're withdrawing to the point where you really notice it. And
that was me. I'm glad you said that, because I kind of going back to years ago when I tried, I'm just going to drink on the weekends. But Thursday is kind of a weekend, and Monday is, you can't just stop on a Sunday. So, right. but that first night every week, whether it was a Monday or it was, whatever, that first day of not drinking again was like going through DTs every week. And it was like, this is not fun.
Right. And another thing, and some of it, as I said, with the education, okay, an example of that is, do you know that one drink or one glass of wine or whatever can upset your sleep for 2 to 3 days? You wonder why you never feel rested. Well, not everybody connects that restless and waking up in the middle of the night with their heart racing and not being able to suck their tongue off the roof of their mouth with the drinking. But after I learned about it, I started to notice it, and I hated it.
Yeah, I thought drinking, I passed out.
I hated, once I learned about it, it made it so that it wasn't any fun. If you didn't have the education and you just went about it the way you normally do, and a little hangover's okay, you wake up in the middle of the night, you're dehydrated, but you don't know why. It's not a big deal. But
Yeah.
once you do it and you study it for a while and you start to realize, well, this is what I have to deal with every single day. And that's what I mean. Eventually, the education wore me down. The more you learn about it, the less fun it is. The more you try to find a reason to do it. So
I didn't want to learn at first. Now I love learning, and now I'm looking back going, God, it's true. And I thought that passing out was, hey, that's instant sleep. This is good. And I didn't. Now I look back and I realize, oh God, that wasn't. It was all these things, but I didn't want to hear it at first.
I know. And the other thing that people don't know, that when they wake up in the middle of the night, when they wake up after like 4 hours or 5 hours of sleep, their heart's racing and they have all of that anxiety. That's because the alcohol burned off, but the stimulants that the body produces, the serotonin and dopamine, they take longer to burn off. And so it's like you wake up in the middle of the night and you're on speed and you can't go back to bed.
Yeah.
But you don't know it when you don't know it. It's all right. In This Naked Mind, we talk about 4 A's. Okay. There's a sleep. That's when you're unconsciously, you don't know what you don't know about alcohol. You're basically asleep to the idea that that's what's causing it, and you can't get off it. You can't stop. You're incapable. Then you become aware, and it's like, wow, maybe it is the alcohol. But that's actually the worst stage because, okay, now you know what's causing it, but you have no idea how to quit. And when you just kind of bite on a pen or try to use willpower, it doesn't work. And then through this education, you go from, aware to awake, where now you can control it and you could stop drinking. But the awake part still has FOMO. You still miss it. You still think that it's necessary. And what we teach in both programs is positive emotion. And that's what brings you to where it's so small and irrelevant. If I didn't do what I do, I'd never even miss it.
What's positive emotion? What do you mean with that?
Positive emotion is, well, an example of it is filling up your life or doing positive things to fill up your life with other things that provide the same dopamine hit that the alcohol does. Meditation, yoga, which I've heard in 1 or 2 sessions ago that you're doing now, exercise. Another thing that's a big contributor that we go into in detail with gray area drinking is neurotransmitter deficiencies. Well, alcohol wipes out your neurotransmitters. So by eating right, protein with every meal, 4 or 5 little meals rather than 2 or 3 big ones, healthy fats, things that produce or the precursors to your neurotransmitters, you feel better all of the time. And when you feel better all of the time and you fill up your life with all of this good stuff, you don't have time to drink. You don't want to do it.
Well, one thing I mentioned, I wrote down, give yourself a reason not to drink. And part of that is I want to put myself into a position where I have something I don't want to lose by drinking versus, the days that I did nothing. I sat, watched TV all day. I didn't work. I didn't do work in the yard. I was complete pathetic. Well, now it's time. Do I want to drink or not? I have nothing to lose. Today's been a waste anyways. So who cares?
Mm-hmm.
It was very easy. But the days that I, get up, shower, brush my teeth, make my bed, whatever, do a yoga or a meditation, go to a support meeting, do whatever, put in a good day's worth of work, do the yard work. Well, now I've got a tangible in my hand. Now, this is just what works for me. Mm-hmm. I don't want to lose all that effort that I just put in because I did a ton of great stuff in my life. And to drink, I don't want to throw it away. I've got something I don't want to lose. And that's where that doing things, earning, I don't know how else to put it, but just giving myself something I don't want to, I don't want to lose this good that I just put in all this time.
You filled yourself up with positive momentum, all sorts of positive things that add to your life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where the positive emotion, positive energy comes from. And if you take care of diet, eat correctly, make sure that you don't get deficient in certain areas that actually cause cravings. In fact, Lisa, what's the name of that? Well, there's a book, 70 Days to Sobriety by Joan Matthews Larkin.
Larson.
There's a book. All right. There's an author of a book that's a doctor that did a whole program on neurotransmitters. She had a son who went to rehab and detox and AA and quit drinking, and he managed to quit, but he was miserable, and he ended up actually taking his own life. And she looked at it as, okay, yes, he could get to awake, he could get to where he knew what the cause, what it was, and he could quit, but he couldn't get to happy because of all of these other things that were missing in his life. And so that's what I mean. Just there's so much that has to do with neurotransmitters, with diet, and that really contribute a lot to getting rid of the cravings and actually feeling really well. So.
Yeah, there's more and more research
Jump in,
about
Lisa.
how your gut health and your mental health. More and more research now backs up that they're related. So it really does matter. Everything that you're putting in your mouth, it does have an effect. So and on your mental health. So the more you can eat well, it really will have the way you deal with things, the way you're not as reactive all the time. You don't have a short fuse. The more that you can do things to fill you up, to feel well and feel happy, you don't want to go back to the things that make you go down a rabbit hole. So you start to believe in yourself again, and you've had self-worth because you're starting to achieve things because you're doing all these other things. And that's, I think, where people get caught up, is that they think it's just about, well, I won't drink today. That's great, but what are you going to do instead? You can't just sit there and not do anything else. It helps so much to get up and walk down to your local park. Get up and plan a day of cooking in the kitchen, and there's so many things to discover about yourself that, for me, I lost years ago. It was rediscovering myself. So it's just
go further with that, because I've got whatever it is inside of me that's causing me to want or need to drink today. I get home, there's something that's making me want to drink. Take away the alcohol, I still got whatever that is inside that I don't have the fix for it. Now you took away the alcohol. Okay, that's great. But now I'm sitting here dealing with all the emotions, all the things that cause me to want to drink. Just because you took the booze away, that didn't solve my problem.
No, not at all.
You actually made it worse for me, because now I'm facing all these feelings and I got nothing to take it away.
And that's why you don't wait till you walk in the door at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, whatever that time is, that that is going to be the time of the day where you're most reactive. So throughout your day, and even in the days leading up to it, maybe there's a certain event that you're worried about, you plan and you prepare. So what am I going to do when I get home? I'm going to pack my sneakers in in a bag that I'm going to take with me to work. And so when I leave work, I'm going to get off the train a couple of minutes early or a couple of stops early, and I'm going to walk home the rest of the way. And so you change that routine. So that's what you do. You don't wait until that moment when you're walking in the door and then go, oh, I got nothing. You've got to build that toolbox, and you've got to prepare during the course of the day and the days before. You just, so that you whip into this plan of action like you already know what you're going to do. I know when I walk in the door at 6 o'clock that I'm going to go, oh, this is what I always do. So I'll just, and I'm guilty of this many, many times until I realized that it was like, okay, I'm going to pack my sneakers in my bag, and instead I'm going to walk home. And it was, and over the repetition of changing your routine, because sometimes it meant that I might have still had a drink at 8 o'clock, but instead of starting at 6 o'clock, and then the next time it might be I didn't have a drink at all one night, but maybe I did the next night. But, you chip away at it. It's not a magic wand. It won't necessarily, but it's change you overnight, but it's the chipping away of your repetitive new routine that you just go, oh, I'm too busy. And now that I'm home after my walk, and now I'm going to do this craft, or I'm going to, I pop open the hood on the car and have a bit of a tinker, and, you just do, you find your way around finding those new things to do, but it's the repetition of doing them and already have in place what you're going to do. That's what you do. Winging it never works.
Yeah. Jim, did you develop new habits yourself?
Yeah, I did. I actually changed. Well, Craig Beck, the author of Alcohol Lied to Me, talks about it as a pattern interrupt. You have to change up what you do every day that causes your trigger, like walking in from work after work. You walk in at 5:30. The first thing you do normally is pour a wine or a beer and start cooking dinner. Okay, so what you can do is pre-make your dinner in the morning, or if you get a break during the day, you pre-make the stuff, so as soon as you come home, you eat. As soon as I used to eat, I was done. I didn't want any more alcohol. The other thing is I used to get out of work and I would go for a bicycle ride or go to the gym and run on a cross trainer. I would switch the time that I would normally come home and cook and drink to later in the day. And by the later in the day, I had already filled myself up with my dopamine hit, so to speak, through the exercise that I did, so that now I didn't have that craving that I had when I would just walk in normally. So, what was it? Albert Einstein says insanity is doing the same thing every single day over and over and expecting different results. Well, if you do the same thing over and over, it's, if you just take the alcohol out, oh yeah, then you're relying on willpower. And what do I do now? What do I do? And I have somebody that is going through that right now, and I have that client changing their entire schedule.
Well, for me, the drive home, because I'm in outside sales, I had some long drives. Well, that was last call. I went straight and got beer for the drive home. And I got podcasts. Usually they were, recovery type podcasts, whatever, ready that were to go. I bought a big bag of these, which are just those dumb little suckers. I put one of I just had them in my truck. So I throw that in, saliva, doing something with your mouth. That was enough to just give me something. I drove a different route home. I listened to something. I did that. Now, it wasn't that magically everything was gone, but it helped.
In that moment, because that's all you want is in that moment, what can I do different? And you have Chupa Chups and candy and protein bars and anything that will just distract you. Totally.
And another thing, as I said, with we talk about HALT, hungry, angry, lonely, and tired, being some really big triggers. Okay, as we were talking about filling up, eating the right things, but that's why I said eat 4 or 5 little meals, because
keep balance.
Constant blood sugar, because a decreasing blood sugar, in other words, the H, hungry, is a trigger. So hungry, angry, lonely, and tired. But you can also use the T for thirsty. A lot of times, if you get a craving, just drinking an 8-ounce glass of water or a 16-ounce glass of water can kind of push it back. And, lonely, strike up a conversation, call somebody.
My problem, Jim, is waiting to make that choice. When I was driving home, I wish I could say that that's when the drinking started, but let's just pretend that that's all it was. But when I was driving home when I was standing at the in front of the beer cooler, looking at water or beer, at that point, I had no chance to make the right choice. So the only chance I had was it's like I always talk about going grocery shopping. You don't go grocery shopping when you're hungry or you come home with a cart full of crap. You eat first, and then you're more disciplined and you can make smarter choices in the grocery store.
Mm-hmm.
I had to have, okay, I'm not even thirsty, but I just finished my last call. Get in and just drink this water. Okay, do it now, whether you want to or not. Before I gotta beat the craving. I gotta act on it before it acts on me.
And that's why your preparation is so important, because if you already know that you're going to get to, say, after lunch, you're already planning ahead that when I finish at 5, I'm going to stop. So plan ahead and you go, well, no, I know that that's going to be a trigger for me, so I won't go that direction on my way home. I'm going to, and if it takes you 2 to 5 to 10 minutes out of your way and you're going to be a little bit longer getting home, who cares?
Right.
But the fact that you put it into place, that you know what those triggers are, and so you're going to choose hours before, you'd already know that this is what you're going to do when you get to that point in the day. Because you're quite right. By the time you get to that point in the day and you've done nothing to think ahead about what to do, you're always going to do what you've always done, because that's the routine. That's the pattern of behavior. So it's creating that new pattern of behavior that and just doing it, but planning ahead.
The other thing is that when I plan ahead is to say to whoever my buddy that I trust, hey, Jim, I got my last calls today at 4. I should be in the truck by 4:30. Give me a call.
Yep.
Because now when that phone rings, I'm going to say, son of a bitch, why did I tell him to call me? Dang it, he's going to ask me and he's going to start talking to me. But that's how I've got to plan the accountability as well, especially when I'm starting new with this. I can't wait to go, I'm having a craving, I better call Jim. Now, at that point, I don't want to call Jim. I want to friggin' solve the craving.
That's what Lisa was talking about when she was just talking about planning ahead. Like one of my favorite things to tell somebody is, all right, everybody stresses out when they first stop drinking about going to a party or an event where they would normally drink. So, science has shown that your brain doesn't know the difference between you actually being at the party or practicing it. So you can practice what you'll say to somebody if they ask you what you're drinking. Or, sort of like, no thanks, I'll just, or yes, I am thirsty, how about a water? Or yes, I'm thirsty, I'd love an iced tea with lemon. Ask for something that is non-alcoholic. Another thing I tell them is when you first walk in, get a non-alcoholic beverage and always have it in your hand. Nobody asks somebody if they have something in their hand what they want to drink, because they already have it.
Mm-hmm.
So and also, like you just said, tell somebody at the party that you're not drinking. So that way you have somebody that you can walk up to, that one you can be accountable to. And the other thing is when you get sketchy, nervous, it's a go-to person. You can go up and have a conversation with them instead of relying on being on your own. Another thing is have an exit plan and always drive yourself. That way, if you drive yourself, you can leave when you need to. And when a lot of people are drinking, you can just leave because they're not going to know that you left, because after 2 or 3 drinks, they don't know that you're there anyway. So there's a lot with pre-planning, and we could go into that.
There's a lifestyle. Yeah, exactly.
Jim, we put up a picture of you with the grandkids. What is your relationship with them now, and what would it have been had you not made this decision?
When I had them, actually, with I had all 5 grandchildren when I stopped drinking, and what it is I see this innocence in their faces, and when and they're having a great time all of the time. When they're out playing and having a great time, and I see, okay, if they're around alcohol the way I was, and if they learn about alcohol being necessary and paying all of this attention the way I did, they could end up going along the same route. When I was young, they didn't have this different education and the actual knowledge that alcohol causes cancer, alcohol causes all, they didn't have all of this knowledge. Now we do. And it's like if you were to equate it to cigarettes. Back in 1921, everybody smoked. 1965, they started putting caution: cigarette smoking may be hazardous. Well, it's gotten a lot stronger than that now. By 1970, then President Nixon banned advertising. So now they don't have the smoking in their face the way we did when we were little, the way our grandchildren have the alcohol in their face now. And when you have grandchildren, you'll see what I'm talking about. They're watching TV and they're seeing all of these commercials. And like Catherine said, the Clydesdale sold her on Budweiser. Well, we got to change how our children are taught before they get to that peer pressure age. And, the problem with it is, what I want to do is I'm going to be trying to talk to people that are not looking for me because they don't think alcohol is a problem. And like Annie Grace says, nobody follows advice that they didn't ask for. So we're going to go out to try to educate these people. But I don't care what they do. I want them to look at their children and think, okay, what am I teaching them? Are they going to learn the same way? Alcohol, all right. The number one killer of people from 1 to 25 is car accidents. 25% of which are caused by alcohol. 50% of that are caused by the person that's driving them around drinking. Alcohol is the number one preventable risk factor for people from 15 to 64. There's all of these things that are out there, and just because alcohol is legal, it's a legal carcinogenic addictive drug. Just because it's legal doesn't mean it's good. So what I want to do is try to get into the schools to teach them before
Jim, I'm going to come back to you and say, you want me to give that up? Fine. Then you tell me how do I handle the stress, the crap, the fears, the anxieties, all the other things in my life. Then give me an alternative. That's my selfish mind. What I'm going to say to you. Just saying, don't do it. Well, then you're leaving me here.
What I'm going to tell you is, I'm not here for you. Okay. I understand that that's what you're going to think, but I'm not here. I'm not worried about you because you've already made up your decision of that this stuff is helping you. Mm-hmm. I want to tell you what to teach your grandchildren and your children. Okay. Now, one of the things that doesn't work is do as I say, not as I do. So when you try to teach your kids what alcohol does and what alcohol is, the real science, and then they see you drinking, well, one of two things are going to happen. One, they're not going to believe anything you say. And two, if they do believe what you're trying to teach them, they're going to wonder why you do it. Yeah. So that's where the hard part is.
I guess my point though is that do we need to do a better job of teaching coping skills? Because absolutely. That's what we're saying. Don't do this.
100%.
We're saying don't bounce checks, but I'm not teaching you how to balance a checkbook.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So I've got to, if we're gonna be successful, just like with me, if I'm gonna be successful in giving it up, I need to know what I can do now to correctly or constructively deal with the crap that made me want to drink. because
And
it
it's all
doesn't
those
go
things
away
that-
with the alcohol. It's not, they're not
No.
one and the same. So that's
And
my
it's all
only
those
thing.
things that
Go ahead, Lisa. I'm sorry.
it's all those things that we've forgotten that we used to do before we were drinking. It's the exercise, it's the fun stuff, it's tinkering with the car, it's the craft work, the cooking and the baking and the walking and the swimming and the cycling and all the ing things that we used to do that we forgot. We've just forgotten those things. So that's how you cope, is because you get busy doing other things. When you do those other things, when you do have a bad day at work, you go, nah, okay, well, like I smashed my phone the other day and I was not happy about it.
Yeah.
But the old me would have had a massive tantrum, ruined her whole day, but with a high blood pressure and more than angry. And, and then I probably would have gone home and drank myself stupid, and then next morning gone over to my phone provider to go and organise a new phone with a hangover, cranky at the store person, but this version of me just went, well, that sucked. And it's not to say that things don't still happen, but I just went, well, okay. And so it's when you fill your life up with all these other things, when the crappy stuff happens, you just don't react in the same way. So that's those other things that you're doing to it has that flow-on effect as to how you do cope with life, because life will still happen.
Do you guys teach? Do you teach coping skills, or because I don't know if that's something that comes with alcohol? I guess abstinence training. Is there, do we teach that
in
properly?
coaching? Yeah, in coaching we have we have pages full of different tactics that you will use to get to kind of help people through cravings. Like one of the things that we all get to where alcohol is kind of controlling us. This little bit of liquid is controlling us, and so you point that out. Okay, take a little cup and put little cups of about 2 ounces or 3 ounces around your house and say, okay, my whole life and all of my thoughts and all of my actions revolve around that little bit of fluid. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
What Lisa was also saying about the children, the kids having fun. Think about when you were 8 years old. Didn't you have a ball at parties, Christmas party?
Oh, yeah.
Party? Did you drink? No.
Not a bit. Yeah.
So now we'll fast forward 20 years. Now you're 28. Now, if you were to go on all of the same vacations, what's different? So you drink, but do you have to? Didn't you have fun when you didn't? What's different? What makes you think that the alcohol adds something to it? So that's the point, is you have to teach these people, and that's the part that's the hardest thing, is we're trying to teach something to people who think alcohol works for all of these other things. That's why you want to teach the children the real science, not the hearsay that alcohol is necessary. It relieves stress, and it helps you go to sleep, and it makes you more sexy, and it makes you more fun at parties, and it makes you funnier. It's an anesthetic. It doesn't do any of that. So what you have to do is through educating the children, hopefully you're going to educate the adults. And the ones that say, well, I can't do that or whatever, they might not be in my audience. I'm not going to be able to change everybody. I'd like to, but when you look at the kids are having a ball. So teach them that all of this, alcohol being the number one abused drug in the world. I mean, it's the only drug that you have to justify not using. Think about that when you go, people say, well, why aren't you drinking? Well, because to me, it doesn't make sense. I tell them right off. I've already had every single kind of drink that they make, so I know what everything tastes like. I've already had enough headaches, I've had enough hangovers, and I've lost enough whole weekends to alcohol. So I'm trying this now. So no, I don't want an alcoholic beverage. I'd rather have something that isn't. So it's about education in general, but more so education to the youngers that haven't gotten to the peer pressure that they need the alcohol.
I think with my kids, that's, like you said earlier, telling them this, I don't think that's gonna do it. Showing them is what's gonna do it. And I don't, I didn't see people. I didn't believe you could have fun at parties without alcohol. Because everything I saw was alcohol at parties. Now my kids are seeing their dad having a good time, not drinking.
Right.
I just had a wedding with my daughter, and I had a great time, and did the speech and the whole thing, had a blast. And I think they're looking in the message they have now. They haven't, hasn't even gotten to a point where it's an issue yet. But they're at least. I want them to know if it starts to get to that point. I want their memory to go. You know what? Dad has a blast, and he's got
Absolutely
confidence, and without it. So that's the example that's going to stick with them a hell of a lot more than my words.
Right. Exactly.
Absolutely. 100%.
So yeah, I'm not saying that what I'm aiming for is going to be easy. It's not. I know that there's going to be a lot of resistance because, first off, half of the people, more than half of the people, don't even know that alcohol is the same as asbestos. They don't know they don't know because they're looking at the advertising. It says it's so great. So one of the things that I do in coaching is I actually teach my clients, okay, do you see this ad? An advertising commercial. Okay. What is it telling you? Is it true? Is that true? Is that what that's going to do? Remember, this is a clear liquid. Is that going to do what it says it does? And you get their awareness of, no, it's not, and so teaching them how to go to parties without it. I mean, I love going to parties because I went to a neighborhood party and I stayed for about 2 hours. And then then I said, well, I'm going to leave. Oh, why don't you stay around and hang out with us? And I said, well, and I kind of sarcastically said, well, because you guys aren't here now. You left a couple of drinks ago.
Yeah.
So it's going to be a slow thing. What we have to do is the biggest thing is get rid of the advertising that all of these alcohol ads are all bull. They're not true. But those are the things the kids are seeing. And when you look at a show like Blue Bloods or Chicago PD, where do all of the police end up when the shift is over? They end up in a bar. And so they're drinking. So what do they have to do? Oh, they have to drive home. Well, what's that telling people that that's okay? When you look at the causes of injuries and deaths, and alcohol being the biggest, alcohol kills more people a year than COVID has killed so far. But everybody ignores it because it's a legal substance.
I know that I'm on at the time, the education thing was, I needed the shovel to the face, and I needed it to swing hard because, it's the same. Let's just pick on McDonald's for the argument. I can sit here and while I'm full, we can talk about how their food is crap, not good for you, the grease, everything, all the stuff in it. And I can say, my God, you're right. That is horrible for you. Well, tomorrow at 3:00 when I haven't eaten all day, now I'm sitting there and I'm hungry. I'm at that. I don't care. I mean, that's fine. I'll start tomorrow. I'll eat some kale for breakfast. But right now I'm starving. And that quarter pounder with cheese looks pretty good. And that's, I equate that to the crate with alcohol too, is when we're in a group, it's easy to talk about those things. It's when we're on our own in front of the liquor store at 5 o'clock, when it has hit the fan, that all that stuff goes out the window. And now all I'm dealing with is the pain of my angst or whatever it is. Those are where for me, the only thing that works is doing exactly what I'm doing now, talking with you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a bunch of little things, but Jeff coaching Jeff, or Jeff helping Jeff, ain't a good combination.
No,
it doesn't get it done. He drops the ball big time.
Yeah.
I help myself. I fail. I got to rely on you.
That's why I'm saying that. All right, trying to give advice to somebody that's not asking for it, that might not work that well. In fact, I know it won't. But when you put children and grandchildren in their face and you said that this is something that can change their lives, this is something that can help them by getting all of this education up front, they can go to like a peer situation where a bunch of people are all getting together and they're all going to drink and, oh yeah, this will be fun. And the kid that has the education will say, what are you talking about? That ain't any fun. This shit is poison. I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to say it that way. But anyway, if they have the education going in, they're more likely to make a better educated decision than just learning from the TV, and learning.
And the other hard thing is that kid that thinks he's the only one that's shy and doesn't fit in and doesn't look like, the kid on TV. The answer that the ads are showing him is drink and you'll become that person.
Mm-hmm.
That's we're not teaching them. That person's not being taught to self-acceptance, self-love, whatever, all those things. I mean, we don't even have, there's not enough time to solve all these problems. But that kid, the quick solution to all the inadequacies I feel is alcohol, according to what I see on TV.
Mm-hmm.
And that's getting more time than parents.
But it's also, if that same kid, even if he feels that way, and it's okay to feel that way, but if that same kid walks into that room and goes, yeah, but the TV might be telling me one thing, but my role model, my parents, my whatever their guardian, whoever, if they've got a strong role model that's, as an example, shows them that they actually can still be at that party and be in that room without alcohol, because their role model said, well, the TV might tell me one thing, but my living 24/7 example is that I see, say, Jeff, you're his teacher or his guardian. Then you go, oh, but I can see by Jeff's example that I really don't need it. And yeah, I might be a bit uncomfortable until I get a bit, warmed up and chatty, and, I'll find someone that I can relate to. And, it doesn't have to be the first person that you see when you walk in the door. Right. But if in their mind that they've got this example, the living, breathing example of, what Jim's saying is that you're showing them as a role model that there is a different way, they will make a different choice.
And okay. You're both nailing it. I just love playing point counterpoint, but
right,
Jim, what did I hear? And I know I'm not alone. Well, everyone says this drugs are bad, drinking's bad, da-da-da. Well, look at Keith Richards. He's still alive. And that's the one that everyone goes
exactly.
to. It's like, well, he's
pickled.
Happy and
he's alive because he's pickled.
But this is true.
But drinking's going to kill me. Look at Keith Richards. That dude's still doing fine, and
but we're not his doctor.
But he's one, and there are billions on the planet. So, but the big thing is we are our first teachers. We parents and grandparents are the children's first teachers. Right. They're going to learn the best from their parents and grandparents. So that's where this will really strike a nerve with a lot of people, because they see their children and their grandchildren and they want to do everything they can to make their life as good as possible. But now it's going to take their because, as I said, it's really hard to do as I say, not as I do. It's hard to teach what you're not living. And so this isn't going to work for a lot of people, but Rome wasn't built in a day. It's going to take a while to get this message out, but we have to get this message out. We can't just, with all of the new science, science has only been around for about 34 years. This problem's been around for 10 or 11,000, so, well, it's not going to change immediately, but just when you look at 42% of America smoked in 1964, now 15% does. Well, when you got rid of all of the advertising, that helped. And when you start to teach this in school and teach, when you look at parents that stop smoking, they're teaching their kids. When the science came out, people that had smoked for 30 or 40 years, the damage was done. Just like with alcohol, a lot of the damage is done when this new science comes out. But it doesn't mean you can't educate with the new science because it's new. It's documented, just like the cigarette stuff did. We got to start somewhere with it.
Last question, because we're over time, but just as we were talking about, especially with women, the numbers of drinking have gone up, and with the gray area, what do you say to the mom that has a couple of kids that knows she's drinking more than she should, but doesn't know if it's really a problem yet? But she has, we're talking about kids that are seeing what mom does. They're getting more from what they see than what they hear, probably. But when mom's going, I don't know if I have an issue or not. What should she ask herself, or where I could just see a big question mark going, I'm still a good mom. I just have some, wine in the, all my friends do. We all have wine after whatever and dealing with the kids. But what questions should they ask themselves or ask someone else?
Again, most people don't know this science. And most people, when you look at those parents, they want to do everything they can for their children or their grandchildren. And if they don't know these facts and they don't have this science to learn themselves to teach the kids, that's why they're drinking. They don't know what they don't know. And so they have to get this education too. In order to pass it on to the children, they're going to have to learn it. How to continue to drink and teach your kids not to, I don't know that part.
Yeah.
I took that part out.
Well, how many smokers that said, well,
yeah,
don't start? But they
three out of the four, I have two brothers and a sister. My dad smoked. And in 1965, when it all hit the fan with cigarettes and everything, and we knew how bad it was and everything else, 3 out of 4 of us still started because dad smoked.
That's a great thing that I would ask. If you are drinking in front of your kids, of the people that that smoke, how many of their parents smoked? That's
where most of the startups are right now.
I bet that's a huge number.
Yeah. When we went from 44% of the adult population in 1964 down to about 15% now, there was a really big decrease in smoking. However, the 15%, a lot of the new startups are the children and grandchildren of smokers.
Yeah.
And so, that's where the education is once the parents see what they're supposed to teach the kids, it is hard to teach the kids and continue to do it. My dad didn't work for my dad. He quit. Well, granted, none of us smoked for very long. I don't even think I smoked for a year and realized that this is terrible. But, that's where we are. We have to get with alcohol. So.
Yeah.
And I think,
all right.
I know we're out of time. I just want to quickly add, just going back to your question, how do you know if you've got a problem, I think, is if you're asking yourself the question, then it's not so much that it's what everybody else is doing. If you just don't really feel well, or you don't feel that you're at 100%, or you just feel below par, or you just know that when you do drink, and even if it's only one glass, your heart races, and you just don't like that feeling, that's when if you're questioning any of that, then it's just an indicator that it might be time to think about changing your routine. And don't try and label yourself about what you may or may not be. It's just that if it's not working for you, it doesn't matter what everybody else is doing. But if it's impacting on your daily routine and your time with your kids, then that's your indicator that it's time to change it up a little bit.
I mean, that's huge, because I justify, I compare. Well, I'm not as bad as so-and-so.
Don't compare.
Oh, yeah.
Don't compare. Comparison is a killer.
Judgment is terrible.
I guess I got to compare with the person in the mirror, and that's who I need to. Well, look, you two, fantastic. Jim, thank you so much for being here. And yes, you do have an accent, but it's all good.
I've been, when I was getting ready to coach in the November live alcohol experiment last year, one of the coaches who's from the South and has an accent said that they're going to love my accent, but I don't hear it.
Yeah. So. I love it. All right.
That's all, folks.
Thank you both for being here.
Thank you very much for having me. I really enjoyed this. Thanks.
All right, we'll talk soon, and stay on real quick. And otherwise, we'll see you guys Saturday morning at 8 a.m. And enjoy a great start to the weekend. Enjoy your Friday, everyone. Take care.